There are many anime and manga series that never see completion. The reasons can be because the publisher canceled the series due to poor sales, lack of interest from the readers, the author losing interest in their work, or because the author died. High School of the Dead was a series Daisuke Sato co-created alongside artist Shoji Sato. It is one of many manga series that will never see an ending because its author, Daisuke Sato, died on March 22nd, 2017 from heart disease. Both of these men aren't related, but for the longest time I thought they were. It must have been a strange coincidence they share the same family name. What they created has a cult following, with fans to this day wondering how High School Dead could have ended, how far its popularity could have gone if the anime did get a second season. Sadly, we'll never know the answer to any of these questions. It came at the right time when pop culture decided zombies were profitable in the Western media. The anime first aired in the West on March 10th, 2011 on the Anime Network, a video on demand service. Needless to say, it fit in right alongside with The Walking Dead, Left 4 Dead 2, and dozens of other zombie-related media at the time. It was so popular that the CDC and the United States Department of Defense in 2011 even got into its popularity, writing a document on how to defend the country in case of a zombie outbreak. Let's hope it was just a well-meaning joke. High School of the Dead is everything an anime fan wanted in 2010. It had cool characters, blood and guts, over-the-top action, and very generous amount of fan service that makes you laugh at how silly it is when it's shoehorned in comedic ways, given the story's semi-serious nature. I think that's the reason why the series looked so fondly backed by its fans. It's because it's a series that encapsulates what people loved about anime in the 2010s. But let's go back in time and look at the origins of how High School Dead got started. The series was first published in September 2006 in Monthly Dragon Age magazine, with an on and off hiatus over the years during its publication due to Sato's health problems and other projects he was working on. Reception for High School of the Dead was fairly positive, earning respectable sales numbers in Japan and usually ranking fairly well in the Oricon charts, a respected Japanese statistics collecting company that compiles sales data of entertainment products in the country. Its highest ranking on the charts it achieved was second with its 7th volume of the manga in May 2011. That was also the last published volume of the manga. It doesn't surprise me that it was ranked so high, as the chapters in that volume were great, and possibly set up the endgame of the series. In my opinion, I don't think the series could have sustained itself as a long-running one, as I'll explain later in this video. The last chapter he wrote before passing was Chapter 30, officially published on April 9th, 2013 in Dragon Age magazine, and in digital format on Yen Press, after a 2-year hiatus. As you can imagine, fans at the time were excited to see a new chapter after so long. It was the start of a new story arc and had the reappearance of arguably the villain of the series, but sadly, we'll never know how this story was going to end. No information on Sato or the series was available until news of his death appeared online in 2017 that he died from heart disease. I can assume it was his heart condition that kept him from continuing writing more chapters for his series, or possibly other projects he was working on. I can't find any source to back my claim, but I think it's a fair assumption to make. What drew me to the series admittedly was how flashy it was with its presentation. It had everything I liked in anime at the time. Cool action scenes, unique art style for its time, engaging story, and yes, the fan service. It's one of my favorite guilty pleasure animes that I rewatch when I'm feeling nostalgic for something that I enjoyed when I was an edgy 20-something-year-old anime fan, but now as a more rounded adult, there's a few things about High School Dead that I never really have noticed or appreciated before that makes me wish the series saw a conclusion. It made me appreciate how much work Sato put into his story. He drives home the point of how society would actually collapse in real life if there was a global zombie outbreak. But one thing I never really appreciated was how he wrote the main characters of the series. Takashi Komuro is the main protagonist of the series. He looks like your standard high school anime character, spiky hair, cool look, and surrounded by beautiful girls that want him. Characters for male protagonists at the time, and arguably still, are pretty uninspired, but what can make up for that is giving them an interesting story arc or giving them something we can relate to. Takashi is very relatable. Everyone has been an edgy teenager at some point, and it makes him a believable character in my opinion. You can understand how he feels when his crush is dating someone else, in his case, his best friend. You can understand how he feels when he is placed in a situation where he's forced to make decisions where he doesn't have enough life experience or knowledge on how to handle it. When we first meet him, he's skipping class and hanging out on the school roof, feeling bad for himself because the girl he likes, Rei Miyamoto, is dating his best friend. He's the first person to see the zombies attacking the school. Had a feeling shit was going to go down. When an announcement was made over the PA system, the 3 of them were already on their way out. During their escape, Hisashi gets bitten and was going to transform into a zombie soon. Takashi knew what had to be done and mercy killed him, realizing this would be the first of many hard decisions he had to make if he wanted to stay alive in this new reality. He had to make adult decisions now. There's no going back to how life was. The other characters, which I will discuss later, make Takashi their de facto leader, seeing leadership quality in him. We do see it throughout the series on why they make him their leader. He goes from a moody teenager to your fairly typical shonen anime protagonist. He doesn't just start with admirable leadership qualities. It is developed over time. He has shown selflessness and serves as their moral compass, but he puts himself in danger. He puts himself in danger to save the life of a little girl, Alice Maresato, after her father gets stabbed by other survivors, leaving her to die. They weren't sure if it was worth the risk saving Alice, but after he showed his bravery, they assisted him in the rescue. Another display of his leadership qualities is when he has shown willingness to learn from his friends, like how to handle a gun properly from NRA poster child Hirano Kouta, learning basic medical knowledge from school nurse Shizuka Marikawa, and how their society functions from the school's top student, Saya Takagi. We're learning through Takashi and how the world collapsed from the zombie outbreak. Takashi might be a leader, but he's a flawed leader. He knows this and questions himself on his qualifications and the decision he has made so far. A lot of his decisions he made was made to ensure his survival, but over time, his choices were made for the survival of his friends. He also admits that he enjoys the chaos the zombie outbreak has created, letting him cut loose without fearing consequences from the law, implying that it was society's laws that kept his teenage impulses in check. Unfortunately, Takashi is overshadowed by other characters, and I don't think that's a bad thing. Like most leading anime characters, you can project yourself onto him, but he has enough personality to make him stand on his own. The other characters stand out a lot more, and, well, it is an ecchi anime series after all. Other characters, like his crush, for example. Rei Miyamoto is my least favorite member of Takashi's group, but I can't help but be interested in her plotline throughout the series. As mentioned earlier, she's a girl that Takashi likes, and I can kinda see why he's drawn to her. She's cute, has a girl next door look to her, she has an affectionate and playful personality. What I don't like about her is how mean she is to Takashi at the start, even though they're childhood friends. She dates Hisashi instead of him because he didn't make a move on her, dating Hisashi to spite him. During the start of the outbreak, she clung on to Hisashi and didn't really care too much about Takashi, even berating him constantly while praising her boyfriend. This is despite the fact that it was Takashi's warning that arguably gave him a fighting chance before everyone at the school started to panic. When Takashi mercy killed Hisashi, she told him he killed Hisashi only because he was jealous of him dating her. She doesn't make a great first impression, and she doesn't really make herself likable personality-wise with Takashi for a few chapters, being passive-aggressive towards him. She does acknowledge she's being too hard on him, and does make an effort to be kinder to him. Rei slowly does get more affectionate with him after he saved her from a predator and risking her life to save Alice, even commenting that his actions to do so remind her that they are still human beings and not monsters. Rei is very friendly with other members of the group, being playful with them, getting emotional after reuniting with the group. She has a friendly rivalry with my favorite character in the series, Saeko Busujima, seeing her as competition for Takashi's affection and attention. She's the only one in the group that still recognized the zombies were once human and doesn't want to get used to killing. Rei is far from being a damsel in distress. She pulls her own weight in fights, being trained in sojutsu, a discipline in spear fighting. The only time she's really placed in a damsel role is usually when she's taken by surprise or is incapacitated in some way. Takashi even points out that in terms of fighting, she's better than he is. Besides the main plot driving the story, Rei's subplot is the one I found very interesting. Before the zombie outbreak, Rei was held back a grade by her teacher Koichi Shido, who serves as the villain of sorts for the series. She was held back because Shido's father, a corrupt politician, was under investigation by Rei's father, who was a police detective. This was done to send a message to her father. Rei understandably hates Shido for what he did. During their escape from the school, Rei saw Shido running towards the bus they were living in. Seeing him angers her, telling them to drive off without him, even at the cost of abandoning other students who were with him. She comments that letting him come with them was something they were going to regret. She was right. Shido's charisma was able to charm other students on the bus, coercing him to make him their leader. Everyone in Takashi's group was against him being the leader, but was stuck with it until they decided to part ways with him. Shido pretty much antagonized everyone in Takashi's group. Rei, not wanting to deal with shit anymore, decided to get off the bus with Takashi following after her. The both of them get separated from the rest of the group after a runaway bus crashes, cutting them off. The second time Rei encountered Shido was at Saya's mansion, pointing a bayonet at his throat, threatening to kill him. She tells him she knows how corrupt he and his family were, and how her father blamed himself for being held back a grade. He doesn't think Rei would kill him in front of other people, going as far as taunting her even with a bayonet centimeters from ending his life. However, people around him didn't do anything to stop Rei. Saya's father, someone who knows Shido's father, even encouraged it, saying he would kill him if he had justifiable cause to do so. She cuts Shido in cheek instead, lowering her weapon and saying he wasn't worth killing. She made a moral decision not wanting to lower herself to his level. Shido and his followers were cast out of the mansion, with Saya's father saying he has corrupted the minds of his students and was no longer welcome there. Unfortunately, we don't know how Rei's subplot ends, and this was the most frustrating part. Shido and his followers reappeared after being absent for about 2 story arcs. I believe this third appearance was going to be their final confrontation. Rei's mother, Kiriko, was introduced to the story and reunited with Rei. A gunman defending an elementary school full of survivors, who is speculated to be Rei's father, is also introduced in the later chapters. I think I can make a strong case that introducing these two characters and Shido's reappearance was going to lead to something. Maybe this story arc could have made me change my overall opinion on Rei, but We'll never know. To her credit, I don't completely dislike her like I did when I first got into the series. After I got to know her character more through the manga and with more understanding, I understood her character and eased up on my dislike of her. Now, with my least favorite character out of the way, let's move on to my favorite character, Saeko Busujima, arguably the face of the series. I will admit, I rate her high for superficial reasons. Purple is my favorite color, she looks cool visually, and she kicks a lot of ass. Now, putting my biases aside, Saeko is a solid supporting character and always generates hype during action sequences. Saeko is the captain of the school's canoe club and is seen as the older sister type in the group. She's mature, deeply cares for her friends, is calm and collected even under highest amount of pressure. Her fighting prowess and athletic abilities are the main reason why Takashi's group is able to survive as long as they have. When we were first introduced to Saeko, she was already cracking skulls with a wooden sword. Considering how hard the human skull is, the force she is striking them with is massive. She saves the school nurse, Shizuka, and mercy kills a fellow student, praising his bravery in protecting Shizuka before getting bitten. She lives her life according to a familial Bushido code, saying it's a man's decision after all, and it's a woman's duty to protect a man's honor. Without a doubt, she's definitely presented as a Yamao Nadeshiko, a Japanese term to describe an idealized Japanese woman, or in Western terms, a traditional wife. However, Saeko doesn't see herself that way. She has a darker side to her character that she didn't show to the group. When she and Takashi are separated from the group, the both of them rest at a local shrine. She reveals to him that when she was younger, she was attacked by a molester. She knew she had the upper hand, but lured him in until she decided to strike, attacking him, breaking bone, inflicting intense blunt force trauma to the attacker. She discovered that she enjoyed inflicting pain on others. Takashi shows that he likes her by fondling her and saying she's the greatest woman in the world and he accepts her flaws. This motivates her and she goes on a zombie killing spree, literally getting off on it. Saeko isn't given more character development after this, besides giving her input on their situation. She is given a real katana by Saya's father as a thank you gift, Saeko's father being his kendo instructor at some point. Other than that, she is shown as a solid fighter. I would have loved to see more character development and story arcs for her. Maybe a potential love triangle between her, Rei, and Takashi, as she does have a friendly rivalry with her. But we would be entering fanfiction territory, and I don't know how it would fit in the dynamic of the story already being told. So far, I've been talking about each character individually. I cannot talk about these two without talking about each other. Saya Takagi and Kouta Hirano. Both complement each other very well, and I think they're the MVPs of Takashi's group. Let's start with Saya first. Saya looks like your stereotypical tsundere, but she's very intelligent and highly analytical, and is always planning ahead for the team. She's blunt to a point when laying down the facts. We first meet Saya telling Kouta to come with her after she realized they were in danger during the announcement, already planning their escape. She picked Kouta knowing him being a gun/military otaku could be useful in this situation. Through experimentation, she was able to learn how the zombies work. They're mostly blind and are lured easily through sound. This knowledge helps them navigate through the zombie hordes. Saya avoided fighting the zombies for the longest time, letting Kouta do the heavy lifting until she is cornered and left with no choice but to fight. This is the first time we see Saya lose her composure and panic. She makes her first kill by picking up a drill and scrambling the brains out of the zombie attacking her. After seeing herself covered in blood, she breaks down, truly accepting the reality she was in. Saya's dynamic with Kouta is an interesting one. She orders him around and treats him like crap at first, but over time she does grow to respect him, even though she won't admit she does. When Alice joins the group, she and Kouta takes on the role of big sister and brother, often reprimanding Kouta for teaching Alice things that a child should be learning. When Saya is reunited with her parents, she's mad at them for not making an effort to find her. Her parents, during the first few days of the outbreak, were busy trying to rescue people, securing supplies, and locking down streets that lead to their massive estate, until they could get help. When Kouta is surrounded and harassed by the other adults at the estate, seeing him hoarding so many guns, she tells him that he is qualified to use those guns, and tells her father directly that he did a better job protecting her than he did. Which is objectively true, he has been protecting her from the start. Saya goes from a passive supporting character to an active supporting character. She steps up and fights alongside the others, receiving instruction from Kouta as she gets more accustomed to shooting guns. On the opposite side of Saya's coin is Kouta. Where Saya is book smart, Kouta is a genius on the technical side of things, particularly with guns. He's often shown in a comedic role, but there is a serious side to him. Kouta was bullied by other students at school, and Shido didn't do anything to step in, even encouraged it. He kept it in, bottling his anger towards his bullies, just letting it happen so he could live a carefree lifestyle. Once the zombie outbreak started, all that anger he had bottled up is unleashed, as he's taking down zombies left and right, blasting them with his excellent shooting skills. He isn't a pushover anymore, even stepping up when Shido harassed Saya, shooting a nail at him, scarring his cheek, even telling him that he missed on purpose. He was letting him know, you don't want to mess with him anymore. He's very friendly towards the other members of the group, and has very comedic reactions when there's a fan service scene. When he's bloodlusted, his expression is that of a madman. I think it's a great way to show his duality visually. He's a much more complex character than most people give him credit for. In the manga, he has his own story arc that starts right after where the anime left off. The group made their way to a mall where there's a small group of survivors being looked after by a young policewoman, Asami Nakaoka. Her superior had gone out alone to get help while she holds down the fort and tries to maintain order. But a lot of people in her group don't really respect her authority. They often blame her and the police for the situation they're in. They start showing her some respect once she's given a gun by Kouta. They respect the gun, not the uniform or badge that she's wearing. Kouta tells her she has his support. And I think he did this because he knew what it was like to be bullied. However, even with a gun, there are some members of Asami's group that don't respect her or her authority. One member of Asami's group tries to assault Shizuka. Even at gunpoint, he doesn't back down. He only backs down after Kouta intervenes. This is where she falls in love with Kouta. She opens up to Kouta, telling him how much of a failure she was, barely scoring passing grades at the police academy. Kouta and Asami got to work together alongside Takashi and a random red shirt. An old woman in Asami's group needed regular blood transfusion. The four of them headed to a nearby blood clinic to get her new blood. Although they were able to get blood for the old woman, the red shirt was bitten in the process, and Asami had to mercy kill him. Takashi himself admits this was a major failure on his end, saying that the red shirt didn't need to die. Asami doesn't handle this well as she had to cope with what she had to do. She confided with Kouta, who was the only person who showed her any kind of respect and believed in her. She asked him if she could join his group, saying she'd do anything for him. We get the implications, but I think she genuinely liked him, but she was taking advantage of him, being a young man with those kind of needs at that age. This moment was interrupted when Asami sees her superior, now among the dead, with a horde of zombies coming their way. The mall was going to be overrun, and they had to escape. Kouta and Asami's story comes to a sad end when she used herself as a distraction, making as much noise as possible to lure as many zombies towards her, so Kouta and his friends could escape. Asami tries to mouth the words "I love you" to Kouta, while giving him a teary-eyed salute. Kouta tells her, "I know," before he kills her with a sniper rifle, so she doesn't get ripped apart by the zombies while she's still alive. This is where Kouta gets reckless for the first time. He loses it as he tries to gun down as many zombies as he can, even almost shooting his friends in the process. Alice tells him she knows how he feels after she had her father literally killed right in front of her. He finally snaps out of it after Shizuka pretends to be a drill sergeant, and this little act makes him snap out of it, and he returns to his comedic role. It should have been Saya, not Shizuka, who snapped him out of it, to further solidify their connection together. Shizuka is the most out-of-place character in the group. She's a lone adult and is shown as a ditzy blonde, but she's deceptively intelligent. She worked as a school's nurse, who was working towards becoming a doctor. When the school was in chaos, she had the foresight to take medical supplies, as they might need it in the future. She helped move the plot, suggesting taking a vehicle to escape, and she drove them out of the school, where she acknowledged that zombies were no longer human, and had no problems running them over. After the group decided to separate themselves from Shio's group, Shizuka mentioned that they were close to her friend Rika's apartment. Her friend's a SWAT team sniper and had an arsenal of weapons in her apartment and had a Humvee in the garage. As a side note, the B-plot of High School Dead has Rika trying to get back to the city and try to find and save Shizuka. Rika's side of the story also gives you an idea of what the government is doing and the global impact the zombie outbreak is having. In the anime adaptation, Shizuka is portrayed as a comedic and ditzy character, while her manga counterpart is shown to be a little bit more confident. She really flexes her medical knowledge a lot more. But in both versions, she mainly serves as a supporting character, although you could say she's the main driving force of the series' B-plot. Shizuka has complete trust in the group and never looks down upon them, even though they are much younger than she is. Other adults they encounter have looked down on Takashi and his friends, but not Shizuka. She believes in their ability to keep her safe and lets them make all the hard decisions. This ties into a core theme of the series. Usually zombies are used as a metaphor to say something about society, or provide some kind of commentary. In a video by anime YouTuber Mother's Basement, he said High School of the Dead is about showing up what the young can do when you let them be, and how adults in society are holding them back. I agree with that statement. Most of the adults we meet in the series have either looked down upon them for being teenagers and underestimate their abilities. For example, Shido corrupting the minds of his students so he could survive longer, and got rid of them once he had no more use for them. Bad decisions made by heads of state launching missiles at enemy countries in an attempt to avoid being attacked first, causing more harm to the citizens. What remained of Asami's group was rescued by the military. They told them that a group of high school kids was able to fight their way out, and it was a mistake to underestimate them based on their age. Finally, the last member of Takashi's group, Alice Maresato, the young girl who they rescued early on in the series. She serves as the mascot of the group, along with Zeke the dog. She gives the others around her hope. She represents the innocent life they had before the zombie outbreak. She is pure, and they try to keep her safe, even going as far as risking their lives when they were cornered so that she could live. She refused to leave them behind, saying she'd rather die with them instead, as she already lost her father. She doesn't want to experience the same loss again. Alice was possibly going to be given a bigger role in the story, as she helped the group escape the mall. In a later chapter, Kouta suggested possibly arming Alice, but we'll never know if this would give her more character development, as she was getting slightly more dialogue in the later chapters, wanting to be more useful to the group. Either way, Alice does help break up the grim situation, with some humor, and just her being so damn cute. So, why did I talk about the characters and not its animation, its story, or anything else? Well, it's the character that makes the story work. They are all written very well. They are believable characters in my opinion. You can have a good story with bad characters, and a bad story with good characters. I think High School of the Dead was able to do both. It's definitely not perfect by any means. I thought Shido was too much of a mustache twirling villain. The zombies were a little too inconsistent with how they operate. And the adults they met all treated them badly in each story arc. It was repeated a little too many times. But I understand it was to drive home a theme of the story. Granted, you had to accept anime logic for certain things about the characters. But to Sato's credit, he does explain why each character is so good at what they do. I thought he did a good job of giving each character a story arc and resolution, with a few exceptions. If he was still alive and High School Dead was still ongoing, I think we could have seen Takashi, Shizuka, and Alice's story arcs completed alongside the overall ending of the story. This brings me back to what I said earlier, that I don't think the series could have been a long-running one. And what I consider to be a long-running series is something that goes beyond at least 100 chapters. The pacing of the series goes pretty fast. Each story arc starts and resolved in usually about 4 to 5 chapters, with a few exceptions. If it were to go beyond 100 chapters, I think people will eventually get bored, and I don't know how many places they can run, fight some zombies, and have some human drama before moving on to a different location to do the same thing over again. Second, I think where the manga left off before Sato passed was the middle point of the story, and was setting up the endgame. Rei's mother was introduced to the story, and I believe they also introduced her father, although it wasn't confirmed. The reintroduction of Shido and his followers was definitely setting something up with Rei's family. Why bring him back when you introduce an important character to Rei, a main character? And with the last panel of the last chapter, a faceless woman is speculated to be Takashi's mother by fans. They're heading towards the elementary school where Takashi's mother works, and that same elementary school is being protected by the military and police. I have no way of confirming this, but I think I make compelling points. And finally, people's interest in zombies decayed over time. Remember there's so much zombie media out there? Like the Walking Dead video game and TV show? And zombie modes in almost every single game? Interest in zombies died out over time, and High School of the Dead came in the West when zombie mania was at its peak popularity. But maybe it might have maintained its popularity in Japan and among anime fans in the West, but it would be speculation. As for why High School of the Dead never got a second season, nobody knows. I cannot find any sources on why it never got a second season, even though the anime's non-canon OVA teased one. You can Google and search on YouTube seeing videos saying there's going to be a second season coming soon. I've been seeing these kind of clickbait videos and articles for years, and a lot of those videos are just speculation based on nothing. If there was going to be a second season, don't you think there'll be an official announcement for it, or from a reliable source that has compelling evidence or proof that's going to happen? The matter of fact is, we just gotta accept that a series came, captivated us, stole our hearts, and never came back. I wish there was a second season, I really do, but I came to terms with it a long time ago. There's definitely enough material for a second season, but we'll be back to where we are now, instead of why there isn't a second season to we wish we could have gotten more chapters. The manga's artist, Shodi Sato, said in an interview on why he doesn't continue the series in Daisuke's place. Although it pains my heart too that the series went on hiatus, just thinking about Daisuke makes me think that I cannot get carelessly involved with High School of the Dead. In another interview, he said something similar, something along the lines of he can't complete the series on his own because it's not his series to finish. But if you really enjoy Shoji Sato's work, his own manga, Triage X, is something you should check out if you want something familiar to High School of the Dead. So, why didn't I talk about its ecchi nature and stuff? There isn't anything I can add to that conversation. Yes, it has a lot of fan service. The girls are beautiful, and the action scenes are really cool. What's there to say that hasn't been said about those things already? I want to highlight something that's underlooked and underappreciated aspects of High School of the Dead, particularly its characters' individual stories. Something fans might have overlooked or never really appreciated. I want to conclude this by saying I feel your pain. I wish this had a conclusive ending as well. High School of the Dead is a guilty pleasure anime that I love and have zero regrets about. And neither should you. I like to think that Daisuke can rest easy knowing that his work had entertained so many people. I hope you were entertained by this video, and I hope that I was able to put some new perspective into High School of the Dead for you. Thanks for watching.